Better Call Saul, Game of Thrones, The Flash, Attack on Titan, and now Dexter goes up with one of the worst endings in fiction. Now, before you Dexter stands click off, I love Dexter. I love Dexter New Blood. I thought that the show was amazing. I mean, IMDb says it was received positively after that horrible last season of Dexter Season 8 with a garbage ending. We got a new sequel, but that didn't stick the landing either, which was Dexter New Blood. Now, for the most part, a lot of people were skeptical about what Dexter New Blood will do, and after that first episode people watched, they weren't as skeptical anymore, as it was a very good, interesting first episode, with the idea of Dexter going into New York, changing his name to Jim Lindsay, and living into Iron Lake, which was a place where Dexter could settle down and, not having to kill anyone else. It was a good place filled with good people in a, nice town, which, because of this, it was told to us that he quit being a serial killer for about a decade. Anyway, that's pretty much the whole plot about what happened after Dexter tried to commit suicide in the hurricane after the Season 8 ending. Anyway, enough blathering, let's actually deep dive into why I think this New Blood ending is mediocre / kind of bad. The final episode ending is called Sins of the Father, and it was after what happened between Kurt Caldwell, who was the main antagonist serial killer this season, as he was a guy who would turn people into preserved corpses. For more explanation, runaways were his main killing focus. Kurt has basically burned down Dexter's entire house before that episode, but that's not really that big of a matter, as the final episode doesn't really revolve much around Kurt, as, spoilers if you haven't watched New Blood, he dies in episode 9 because he was caught by Dexter and Harrison. The main cause of why this season really happened was because about Dexter and Harrison's dynamic, as it felt a different tone like the other seasons, because Harrison, in the older seasons of Dexter was always this, like young, he was like a baby, and he was like a tiny little kid in the OG Dexter show, but now in New Blood they made him an adult, which also made the show, in my opinion, also very interesting. Pretty much Harrison finds out that a letter he sees after the death of Hannah McKay, who was a character in season 7 and 8. I think, if I can remember, she died to like a disease or something like that. I don't know if it was cancer or something like that, but yeah, she died, and Harrison then went on to find answers and see why Dexter, in his perspective, pretty much left him and Hannah all behind and betrayed them. As to why he wants to say the explanation, he just can't, as he didn't want his son to know he was a monster. This is confirmed in one of the later episodes of New Blood, that he doesn't want to admit to him that he is, a monster. However, as the season progresses, Dexter finds out his son has the same dark passenger as Dexter for carrying a knife, and also, Dexter seeing that he snapped someone's arm in a wrestling match and violently stabbing a kid in high school. After Dexter becomes clean to Harrison and tells him the truth, they have a bonding time, and Dexter teaches the ways of how to not let the dark passenger take control over fully. This is known as Harry's Code. Now, I'll leave a picture up on the screen to show you what Harry's Code really is, as it pretty much is a set of rules for killing someone. Like, I'll name a few off the top of my head. Don't get caught, and also just killing must serve a purpose, and not just be playing out of the ordinary. Murder. Iron Lake, like I said, was a good town, filled with good people, so that's part of the reason why Dexter says to Harrison they have to leave this area in the ending and go to a different location, as he suggests, LA. Now, this scene I wasn't really a fan of, because after Harrison leaving from place to place, hurting people, and is happy with everything he has, before he was sleeping on streets, he finds Iron Lake and he's happy, and he's got friends and a close family relatives, and also a girlfriend that cares for him, and now he just replies and he says, "Can we get a pool?" Also, speaking about Harrison's girlfriend, Dexter also has a romance, which is called Angela. Also, she is a police officer who finds out each episode that Dexter might be a serial killer, also known as the Bay Harbor Butcher. And she also finds out that Dexter was lying to her, as his name wasn't actually Jim Lindsay, which was a cover name to hide him from everything getting caught by being the Bay Harbor Butcher or anything else. Well, how that worked out. Anyway, I gotta be really honest here, I don't understand how Angela really managed to puzzle everything together so fast in the span of 6 to 7-ish episodes. I mean, it just is kinda if you get what I mean. Anyway, in the finale, I noticed another scene which I thought was really stupid for adding. As a fact, when Angela sees the titanium nail or something like that, she notices that Dexter has evidence to be, suspected and taken into court or something like that. Angela holds Dexter at gunpoint. He realizes the knife on the kitchen counter and has the feeling of actually stabbing her or killing her. I don't know what really intention it was. First of all, this scene I found very stupid, as the fact Angela's a trained police officer and would likely that, Dexter would get shot. But unless, he has Lalo Salamanca type of plot armor on his side. But second of all, let's just say, if this did work out, it would assassinate some of Harry's code and also get himself caught. Not only is that my problem, it's also when Dexter gets taken into questioning for murdering Matt Caldwell, who was the person in the first episode of New Blood he killed, and we had this insane line which was said, "Tonight's the night, hello Dexter Morgan, the awakening of his dark passenger coming back from the dead." So when I was watching this ending, I was like, nah, my guy Dexter's cooked. And the fact Angel Batista got on the case too was insane to me. But when I look at it, Dexter is pretty much right. When the whole evidence is pretty much plain and bland. Like, Angela's so-called proof is around Dexter using ketamine, which was like a syringe, also known as animal tranquilizer, which would be to put people out cold for a few hours. We also know that in the OG Dexter series, he used animal tranquilizer, which was called M99, or another one. I think it was called like Atorphine or something like that. Speaking of Angel Batista being on that case, we also never find out what Maria LaGuardia actually proved in the Bay Harbor Butch evidence for some reason. If I can remember, Batista just made theories and even ended up ripping some of the pieces of evidence, / warns that was even in the investigation of Dexter, which would have made it so that he was the person who killed Travis Marshall, who was the main antagonist in Season 6. What I'm mainly trying to say here is that Dexter honestly would have gotten away with this even if he was put on, I don't fucking know, like the trial for the Bay Harbor Butcher case or the murder of Matt Caldwell case. Actually, matter of fact, especially that murder, since the iceberg of evidence that was all leading towards Kurt Caldwell being the murderer for lying about his son being alive, burning down Dexter's house, even the goddamn motel that he washed away for killing, where he was like a serial killer to take place, to trap young women and kill them with that Dragon's Breath sniper he had. But none of this made me think that ending was bad at all. For the most part, I thought this ending was a very, it's okay, it's like an okay safe ending when I've reached this mark, but no. Until the worst possible outcome happened to me, which was Dexter killing Logan. It made me think this ending went to complete peak shits. Number one, Dexter killing Logan from the prison kind of cell, I don't know if it's like meant to be a prison, but it's like a cell, is just so strange and horribly written. I managed to rewatch this scene multiple times. I couldn't find a way around to why it's a good scene, because it's not. The fact that Dexter just chokes a person who's a skilled, regular, trained cop in a goddamn prison cell, not to mention he also does wrestling and helps out his son Harrison a bit in the show. Anyway, what mostly destroyed this scene is that the absolute abomination of a character assassination for Dexter. Like, from here on out, everything feels so weird in Dexter's character, almost like an ending that didn't even feel like Dexter. Honestly, it just felt more like lazy writing, so they could just fit the writing's code. No pun intended to Harry's code. Anyway, so what happens in this scene is Dexter calls Harrison through Logan's phone and tells Harrison to meet, Dexter in the forest, where the first episode of New Blood, where, that white, I don't know what the hell that animal was, but where that white animal was killed. And I actually like the idea of the parallel between it, and also the fact, I think it represents, innocence, or something like that. Anyway, Dexter was down to go with Dexter in this scene until he realized that Dexter killed Logan, which, honestly, over this, to be a complete plot twist to killing his own father, and I gotta be really honest, I really like the idea of this scene. I thought it was a great idea, the fact that Harrison kills his father, and the parallel of the very first episode of Dexter saying, "Open your eyes and look at what you've done." I genuinely thought it was great, but the main problem here is that Harrison switched up so quickly that it gives us a sign it feels so incredibly rushed. I mean, the fact that Harrison went from hating him for the first 8 episodes to then liking him in the 9th episode, then to switching up on him yet again in the 10th episode, just feels so weird to me. What also feels quite weird is the fact that these two characters in this scene have no real connection to how they originally were built up in the previous episodes. Even to say that Dexter even says there was no other way, so killing Logan was the only option. But there was other ways, because Dexter should have just been smart enough to know he'll get away with the evidence that was thrown at him. He could have even told the truth, turned himself in so that Harrison would have not lived in guilt in his life, or even leading to this wasted potential scene. Harrison has also acted out of character in this scene, as the fact he has forgotten how he said in episode 9 he saved over thousands of people from those bad people he's killed. And so it's like a minor slip up from killing Logan is so bad to the fact you gotta kill your own father from one problem that just doesn't feel right to me. And I suppose to other people too, I do understand it was against Harry's code, and all but something about it just doesn't sit right with me. But anyway, things start to fall apart quicker too in this ending, as the fact how Angela suddenly appears out of nowhere and lets Harrison go, making it look like Dexter was shot by Angela. This whole segment is just, it's so fucking weird, because the fact that Harrison could have killed his father and said it was obviously self-defense, after the causes of Dexter, what has Dexter has done in this whole episode, which is killing Logan, also escaping custody with no consequences given or any acceptance that he can go out, it's just like, what? The final scene is Harrison looking through the town while driving back once more time, as Harrison is back to square one, where he's sleeping on streets and moving from town to town, which is fine, I guess, but leading him to finding his father and then just leaving him is very weird. I also find this whole setup of Angel Batista and Dexter Morgan talking to each other confusing, to why it seemed like it was going to happen but it didn't. Possibly proves they rushed the ending, I don't know. Overall, I really enjoyed Dexter New Blood. I would probably give it like a 9 out of 10, but because of that ending, it was very shit. So I'll probably move it to like a 8 out of 10, because that for me personally, that ending is just like a 5 out of 10. It is bad, but it's not like god awful as I think people say it is. However, I do think that OG Dexter Season 8's ending was way worse. I'm not going to make a video on that because everyone knows it's trash. I just wanted to make a video on this because it was fun. Before I end this video, yes, I have caught up with everything Dexter, including Original Sin. I'm planning to make a review on that soon, as it's ending soon, no pun intended. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.